What is the first thing you think of when the words virtual reality come to mind? For me, I think of a headset in a computer-generated environment for me to see before my eyes. But I grew curious about the VR technology that came before all that. I wanted to know how virtual reality became a reality. Hello and welcome to Point of View, a podcast that looks into the history of virtual reality. I'm your host Massimo, and I'm going to take you on a tour along the past, present, and future of VR. To those who don't know, virtual reality is a simulated environment that users immerse themselves in, allowing them to explore, interact, and learn. The beginning of VR, however, was a lot more simple than that though. It started long before the clunky headsets, flight simulators, and even the science fiction novels that predicted what virtual reality would be before it even existed. Our journey begins with the stereoscope. In 1838, the first piece of virtual reality history was born thanks to a man named Sir Charles Wheatstone. He created the stereoscope, an invention that allows users to look at a stereoscopic pair of images using a left eye and right eye view of the same scene. This gives users the perception that they are viewing a single three-dimensional image. To explain a little bit further, the stereoscope works by placing two mirrors on the left and right to reflect the two pictures of the same scene, taken from slightly different angles to make the pair of 2D images look three-dimensional. This is because of something called binocular depth perception, the illusion that a pair of 2D images appear as one 3D image, just like how binoculars work, as the name entails. So you're probably thinking, the first major breakthrough in virtual reality without a headset or even lens? Sounds crazy, right? Well, it wasn't long until the stereoscope evolved into something that looked a little more familiar. A couple of years later, a man named David Brewster took one look at the stereoscope and thought, I can make something a bit better than this. I want the people to see the world in front of them, so they can be surrounded in a scene. And that's exactly what he did. In 1849, Brewster created a better pair of the stereoscope called the lenticular stereoscope. What's the difference, you might ask? Well, this uses lens instead of mirrors, making it a lot easier to see through. It was basically the first headset, without any computers, sensors, or even light. Before we had the Oculus Rift, people had to make do with a device that looked like a pair of binoculars attached to a wooden box, kind of like a makeshift headset that a kid would have to make for a school science fair project. Let me show you how it worked. It had a slot where users would insert a stereo card, a pair of near identical images side by side to one another, just like a stereoscope. Instead of looking at a pair of mirrors, however, users simply stared through the lenses and got the same 3D effect, making the stereoscope much simpler for people to use. Pairs of images taken from photos around the world were captured and printed on stereo cards for users to view, making it seem like they were really there when they peered through the lens. Remember, this was the mid-1800s. People couldn't exactly get around the world without a few weeks or even months. The lenticular stereoscope paved the way for virtual tourism, giving people access to a first-person view of wherever they wanted to go. Everywhere from the amazements of America to the euphorias of Europe. Just pop in a set of stereo cards featuring a photo of your desired destination and look through those lenses. So, virtual reality seemed like it had a lot more reality than virtual, didn't it? It doesn't seem like much compared to the headsets we have today, but VR got a lot more interesting when simulators made things come to life. Well, seemingly. Tune into the second episode where I cover the next chapter of virtual reality history when things start to really take flight. Once again, I'm your host Massimo, and thanks for listening.